What are the best options to use in Call of Duty Modern Warfare's brand new Gunfight Alpha? Let's check it out right now. Hello and welcome. I am Amedeo602, and if this is your first time on the channel and you want to improve at Call of Duty, start now by subscribing and ringing the notification bell so you don't miss out on tips, tricks, and tactics to make you a better player. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than usual in that I'm going to skip most of my editing process in order to get this video out as soon as I can. Because of that, this commentary is going to contain a lot more and blah 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 than most of my commentaries, but don't worry, I've not given up my typical quality and eye to detail. There's the first one right there. In fact, those of you watching, if you watch through the whole video, at the end of the video, let me know how many mistakes you catch, and know that that's how many mistakes I usually go through in the editing process. What I've done here is I've gone ahead and reset all of my options to default, and I'm going to go through each one with you and tell you what I prefer to play with and why. For the button layout, I have a strong preference for tactical over default, and this really just comes from the old school drop shot. Really, it's no more than habit at this point. I do use a Scuff for PS controller. It's got two paddles on the back, and so I really could map prone to one of the paddles, but I just don't have it set up that way. One of the options this actually took me a really long time to find was how to flip. So I really dislike using L2 to aim down sights and R2 to shoot. What I prefer is L1 and R1, with the triggers actually being used for the tactical and the lethal equipment. And how you do that is you just push square when you're on top of this button layout preset, and it does tell you down in the bottom right. It was just it just wasn't as obvious as I would have liked it to be. And you can see here when I do that, I flip back and forth. By the way, as I'm rambling on about some of these settings, I'm going to periodically switch back and forth to some different gunfight gameplay that I've gotten. So that way you won't get too bored just listening to me talk about options. For stick layout, you have lots of different choices here. I really have never tried anything except the default. The left stick to move forward and the right stick to look just feels natural to me. As for invert vertical look, I prefer to leave this disabled. Some people might like it enabled, and that's totally fine. It's really just personal preference. As I said before, I use a Scuff controller, and I actually have the vibration, the rumble, what do you call them, rumble motors, rumble packs, whatever they're called. I have them removed from my controller, so this doesn't really make a difference to me. And I do like the sense of immersion that the vibration gives you, but it messes up with your aim, messes up your accuracy, so I always turn off the vibration. As for sensitivity, I could have sworn that these were at 2 when I first started the game, but resetting the entire tab to defaults set them to 3. So I haven't really played with the sensitivity much, but I do have it set to a 5, or at least that's what I've been using typically. I reserve the right to change this later, especially when regular multiplayer and more weapons are released. I do use a sniper control freak on my right stick. My left stick is just factory default. I could probably turn this all the way up if I wanted to, but I would just miss a lot of shots. And in a game like this, hitting your shots is very important. I suspect that at some point I will want it higher than 5, but for right now, I'm just starting out with a 5. As for the depleted ammo weapon switch, let's see, you can turn that on and off. I really don't like it when the game switches weapons for me. Even when I'm out of ammo, when I hear that click, I instinctively press the triangle button, so I like to have this disabled. I haven't really messed with the weapon mounting very much. It looks like the default is to just hold down ADS and melee. I find it kind of interesting and unusual that this is a drop-down box instead of just a left-right like some of the other things. But whatever. Doesn't really matter. You can change that if you like. You can actually disable the entire feature if you prefer. But I'm going to leave it at default for now until I come up with a good reason to change it. As for the weapon mount movement exit, what that does is it means if you move, then you effectively disable the weapon mount until you re-enable it again. And that seems reasonable to me. If I'm trying to move, I don't want my weapon to stay stuck and keep me on a corner. As for aim down sight behavior, this has been an option in Call of Duty for a long time, and I prefer holding the button for ADS. Now, I can see an argument for toggling, but I'm really just used to holding it, so that's what I'm going to leave it at. As for the equipment behavior, I thought this was an interesting option. Again, this isn't anything I've ever really messed with. I'm not sure if it's in other games at all. If anyone knows for sure whether it's in other games, please let me know in the comments. But again, I'm just going to keep this at the default. Aim assist, I'm really very interested in seeing aim assist here. And you see right below it you have target assist, which actually goes hand in hand with aim assist. And when people talk about aim assist in Call of Duty, traditionally they get the two of these things confused. Aim assist, let's see here, assuming that this is for gunfight and not just for campaign, which is what aim assist usually is, it just snaps on. It says here you can have your aim slow down near the target. So as you're getting close to as you're getting close to ADSing and hitting the target, your aim actually slows down, so your sensitivity automatically decreases. Now, I'm not sure what experimental or enhanced are. I definitely want to check them out, but for right now, at least for the early hours of the pre-alpha or alpha, whatever they're calling it, weekend, I'm going to leave this standard. Now, target assist, it says the camera slows down when the crosshair is about to move over an enemy. That's different than aim assist, and it's different, I believe, than traditional Call of Duty. I'm going to leave this enabled for now, but if anyone has messed with either of these options, please let me know in the comments if you found them to be useful. As for steady aim behavior, the typical behavior in Call of Duty is to hold, and you press and hold on, in my case it's L3 or the left joystick, to steady the aim with sniper rifles. But they have a new toggle option, and I definitely want to check that out, because I feel like when I'm holding down that stick, I'm actually messing up my aim when I do that. So I'm really excited to try out this option. As for the slide behavior, I don't know, pressing and holding to slide or just tapping the crouch button to slide. Hold is the default, but I think I'm going to go with tap, because sliding in this game seems to be very, very strong. In fact, I was playing with Gray Fox last night, and on at least a couple of occasions it felt like the people were sliding right through his bullets. Sprinting canceling a reload, I like that feature and I'm going to keep it that way. The other thing you can do is double tap the triangle button or whatever your weapon switch button is. That also cancels a reload. As for vehicle camera recentering, we don't have vehicles yet, so I'm just going to leave this alone. Our second tab, which is the general tab, has the brightness setting, and for anyone who saw my first video, I had this cranked all the way up to, 80 something, and it was horrible. So I'm just going to put brightness right back to the default at 50. The safe area is kind of interesting in that you can expand this, and what this does is it causes the HUD to draw in different places on your screen. Now, I like my HUD to be as close to the center as possible without getting in the way. And let me explain what I mean by that. What I mean is I don't want to have to move my eyes all the way to the edge of the screen to look at my ammo or the obituary or, if they ever add it to this game, the minimap. So I'm going to put this safe area to the smallest I possibly can and see how it feels. I may increase it later. As for film grain, I absolutely want to turn this all the way off. As you can see, that image on the left is so much clearer than the image on the right. And if you watched my first video, you'll know that I had a hard time identifying enemies. That was because I hadn't yet changed this film grain option, and I really do hope that this improves. As for subtitles, right now I don't have my headset on, but I definitely like subtitles in the game, just because I like to see the text that appears at the bottom and read the callouts. So I'm going to be turning that on once I turn on my headset. Language selection. Well, I don't speak French, so there aren't a lot of other options here. I'm going to stick with English. Now, the different colorblind options are very interesting to me, and in some games I feel like it does help you see things better on the minimap. But since there's no minimap in Gunfight, I really don't have a good way of testing these different things, so I'm just going to leave it off. Same thing with the colorblind target. Since I've disabled colorblind altogether, it doesn't really matter what I set this to. As for an input device, I'd be interested in using a keyboard and mouse, except I believe they've already made a statement that the field of view slider is not coming to console, and I feel like I'll be at a huge disadvantage when playing against PC players. And that's because the field of view actually lets you see more things in front of you, as well as PC players being able to run at higher frame rates. So I'm going to stick with a controller for now. Now look at the motion blur. These are two options that have definitely got to be changed. Just look at the difference between how crisp and how clear the image on the left is compared to the image on the right. Again, in that first video, I hadn't found these settings yet because, well, I was just in a hurry to play the game. So we're going to turn both of those things off. Yuck! As for the audio, I really don't like having sound come out of my controller because a lot of the time when I play it's late and other people are asleep and I don't want to wake them up. So we absolutely don't want sound coming out of the controller. And besides, I wear a headset anyway. As for the audio mix, I haven't really gotten a chance to play with these yet. What I want is I want the best audio mix for hearing footsteps because I feel like it's really hard to hear footsteps in this game. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to set these to. I have been playing with the default, which is flat, and I don't feel like that's very good. So I don't know. If anyone has any tips, tricks, tactics, that's what we're here for, right? If anyone has any of those for the audio mix, please let me know. For right now, I'm going to try out the Infinity Ward mix, and maybe I'll make a video about that at some point. And that's all the options here for the Modern Warfare Gunfight Alpha. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something about Call of Duty today. If you did learn something, please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on my next video. Oh, and keep an eye this weekend for my Gunfight streams. I'm going to try to play as much as I possibly can with you guys this weekend and try to bring home some wins. As always, thank you very much for watching. GG, fellas.
Shall return home bloody and empty-handed.